Hello and welcome. Many people who have recovered from COVID-19, whether it's mild, moderate, or severe, are now increasingly complaining about fatigue, inattention, poor concentration, and overall symptoms that perhaps they had not anticipated. There is a term for this, it's called COVID-19 fog in some places. But the bigger question is, are these symptoms increasing? And more importantly, is there a way to anticipate that you could be experiencing post-COVID symptoms? So therefore, of course, you need to take COVID-19 far more seriously than perhaps you did before. To discuss this and where we stand today in the entire approach to treatment and recovery, I'm joined by Dr. Tanu Singhal, consultant pediatrics and infectious diseases specialist at the Kokilaben Dhirubhai Ambani Hospital. Dr. Singhal trained in pediatrics from the All India Institute of Medical Sciences and also in infectious diseases from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. Dr. Singhal, thank you very much for joining me. So before I ask you about post-COVID-19 symptoms, can you tell us about where we stand today, or you feel we stand today in terms of our success in battling or combating this virus?
So at a population level, we do see a decline in number of cases in the country, which is a good thing because at one point we were a lakh per day and now we are about 30 to 40,000 per day. So there has been a decline, and which seems to be a true decline because testing hasn't gone down. In fact, it has gone up. Then as far as outcome of patients with COVID is concerned, we are seeing better outcomes than what we were 4 5 months ago. I mean, this is experience from my own hospital, where the first 3 or 4 months of April, May, June, and even were actually quite bad. We were seeing mortality rates of 40 to 50% in our patients with severe disease. But after that, the mortality has come down, and I think there are many factors. First is patients are coming in early. There is more awareness. We are using remdesivir, which, as per us, has made a difference in the outcome of patients. Doctors know how to treat it better. The use of tocilizumab has come down, which was actually causing problems. So overall, I think the outcomes have become better. So the number of cases are declining, and also the outcome of cases is better. So that is what I would say as far as COVID is concerned. We in Mumbai actually saw a major decline, and now the cases have gone up again a bit, but they haven't reached the peak levels yet.
Right, and let's talk about the post-COVID-19. Now, there are two kinds of cases. One is, of course, those who come to hospitals and come under your into your radar, so to speak. And there are others who perhaps may not even get tested, or even if they get tested, are getting treated at home because the symptoms are mild to moderate. And yet, many of these patients are now displaying or later displaying symptoms of or post-COVID symptoms, including what in some places is being called the COVID-19 fog. How are you seeing this, and what have you been coming across?
So yes, we are seeing both type of patients. We are seeing mild patients as well, because some of them are our own healthcare workers, and there are many people who do online consultations for COVID if they are mild. So we have experience with these patients as well. And the commonest problem which I come across is fatigue. Even after recovery they feel so weak, and they can't go back to their usual work. And we see that with healthcare workers also, that they come and join work and then they say they're feeling very tired and they want to go back and rest. So that is one problem we are seeing. Then we are seeing that the loss of sense of taste and smell takes some time to come back, and that actually causes patients distress. Then we are also seeing this phenomena of very low grade fever persisting for a month. And why? Because these people have got so used to measuring their temperatures that they keep measuring it, and in the evenings if they get a little bit of 99 also they get worried. So some of the problems may actually be more perceived than real.
Right.
We are seeing these cases of brain fog, and recently we had actually a person admitted with us who had mild COVID and didn't need any major treatment, and then a month later started becoming forgetful. And so much so that he used to forget everything, and he was becoming very drowsy and withdrawn, and he had to be admitted to hospital for that. So this brain fog also has different spectrums. But one thing is very clear, that COVID is not behaving like any other pathogen. It is breaking all the boundaries and the barriers, and name any kind of complication post COVID, we have seen it. We've seen people coming with pancreatitis, we've seen people coming with strokes, we've seen people coming with myocardial infarctions, we've seen them coming with thrombosis, and so many other
Right.
complications affecting almost every organ of the body.
Right. And, we are now in December, which is almost the ninth month since this hit us in its full intensity. Now, are you saying that in some of these cases, for instance, fatigue, for instance, forgetfulness, is there recovery after that? Or are you saying that this is almost like like a longer term state?
No, they recover. So even all the people who were complaining of fatigue about a month or two ago don't have it any longer. So I have not seen any kind of any patient who has permanently. It's just that it doesn't go away as soon as people expect it to go away. But eventually they recover. So the long-term outcomes in terms of all these minor symptoms is quite good.
And you're saying this for all the symptoms that you just described earlier, whether it's to do with, where you said thrombosis, you said
No. That
myocardial.
is a different thing because we
Right.
can classify the post-COVID problems as mild and we can classify them as severe. So my thing applies to the mild problems with people, they tend to go away. Everybody recovers eventually. These mild symptoms go away. It just takes some time.
So and do the mild symptoms also relate to mild symptoms at the onset of the disease, or are these two not related?
No, so they are not related because they are people who have had moderate to severe symptoms also who have these symptoms later on, They may not
Mhm.
have serious problems, but they continue to experience fatigue, etc. But for a person who has been in hospital, who's been in the ICU, if they have fatigue and other problems after recovery, it's understandable. But patients who have very mild symptoms in the beginning, there it is unexpected. And
Right.
the other thing which I kind of wanted to say about this is mental health problems. We are seeing, a lot of mental health problems triggered even with mild symptoms because they've had a lot of anxiety about their condition and social isolation. So many of them are coming with mental health problems later.
Right. And is there any insight as to why this happens? I mean, why is there fatigue or why is there forgetfulness? I mean, what could be what triggers it or could be causing it?
So it is the reason I think is because this COVID virus, it basically enters the body through ACE2 receptor, and these receptors are widely distributed all over the body. So that is why the virus can gain access to every system, and it is known that it gains access to the nervous system also, and that is the reason for its the loss of sense of taste and smell, and probably that is the reason. So one could be actual damage by the virus to these organ systems, and the second could be also a byproduct of the stress which a person undergoes, during the whole COVID episode.
Right. And when you speak of thrombosis or cardiac issues in the post-COVID phase, are these related to prior conditions, or are these something that people, as you've observed, developed completely afresh?
So in most of the times they develop completely afresh. So we rarely, like, we have a cohort of about 600 or 700 patients with COVID who were treated in a hospital for severe COVID. They are the ones who don't come back with these thrombotic problems because we are not even giving them anticoagulation at the time of discharge. The people who come back with these problems are those generally who never anticipated it. They come with a stroke and they have no risk factors, and then when you evaluate them you find they had COVID 3-4 weeks ago. So that is the pattern. So most of the patients who come to us with these kind of COVID related thrombosis had mild illness earlier, but the number is very small, so that is why people shouldn't panic, because that is a very common problem that everybody reads about thrombosis in COVID, and then they feel that even if they are at home they do their D dimer levels, and if the D dimer is high they say, can we take anticoagulation? That is not recommended, because if 1,000 people have a mild COVID, maybe there will be one who will have a thrombotic complication.
Right, but
So
many more would have fatigue and let's say things like
yes,
forgetfulness. I mean, I'm also saying from my own anecdotal experience from people that I've spoken to.
yes. So serious complications are rare, are rare.
Right. And
And
the
there was that.
non-serious one, yeah, go ahead.
No, and there's nothing much one can do, to prevent these from happening, like the serious complication, at least like thrombosis, because anybody who's had mild COVID would not be on anticoagulation, etc., to prevent this from happening. So I think it is just bad luck, you know.
Right.
It's only very few people who qualify for anticoagulation after they are discharged from the hospital.
Right, and I'll come to that in a second. So you're saying that, but a higher number of people or patients would or are likely to encounter fatigue and forgetfulness and so on, but they will recover. Is that,
Yes,
and that's your experience?
yes, they will all recover completely.
Right. Now, last question. Now, when someone is diagnosed, I mean, obviously at that point you don't know what's going to happen. Maybe you've caught it early and it looks like it's mild. Is there anything you can do to prevent what could be more serious onset once you've recovered? Or like I asked you earlier, once you've got it, then it's pretty much in the hands of God. I mean, you don't know which way it's going to go, and you just have to hope for the best.
No, there are some things which you can do, and one of the very important things which people should do is to not take steroids if they have mild COVID,
Mm-hmm.
because that is happening, and not take too many medications, because that's also happening. Like patients who have mild COVID, they are given azithromycin, HCQ, ivermectin, doxycycline, etc., for which there is no real scientific basis. So they should avoid that, and steroids should definitely be avoided, because the most horrible complications that we are seeing post COVID are actually infections. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, because what happens is COVID itself lowers your immunity. And then on top of that, if you take steroids, your immunity goes down further. So we are seeing people coming with bad fungal infections, bad bacterial infections. So that is the most common complication which we are seeing after COVID. And that is avoidable to a certain extent by not taking medications which are not indicated. Even another thing is patients with severe COVID, some of them are being treated with steroids for a very long time, which is not recommended. It's basically 7 to 10 days, which is recommended. But if they go on for long, then they come back with bad infections. So, number one on the list of post COVID serious complication is infection.
Right. So you're saying, therefore, you have to be very careful about not overdosing yourself or multiple dosing yourself at the time that at the time that you've actually tested positive.
Yes. And also be careful for the next 1 month, after recovery also. And if you have any kind of thing which is amiss, like don't ignore it. So suppose, you have recovered from COVID and then suddenly you start having some symptom, like you have start having some chest pain, or you start having some weakness of a limb, or you have something, you get fever again. Don't ignore it. Don't, because once people have recovered from COVID, they think that all is well with us, we have recovered, we have bet the virus, but you still have to be careful for the next month or two. And in case they have any of these problems, then they should immediately consult a doctor.
Right. And let me just go back to the last question again. I mean, to the point that you made earlier. You said that remdesivir is working and itolizumab is not working. Is the treatment protocol now more or less now remdesivir and maybe whatever else that you may do, or are there other drugs that you're still working on?
So actually now our protocol for the past 4 months has become fairly standard, which includes remdesivir, steroids, and low molecular weight heparin to prevent thrombosis, and oxygen. These are the four cardinal things, and this has remained more or less same for the next 3 to 4 months, because there's nothing else which is there in the offing. Convalescent plasma has gone off. Similarly, tocilizumab has gone off the treatment schedule, and one of the reasons why tocilizumab is gone off is because of the serious infections we started seeing when we were using toci. So after the trial said that toci doesn't help, we stopped using it. Now you might ask that the trials also said that remdesivir doesn't work. So why are you still using it? So the reason is two. One is, as personal experience, we felt that it works and our outcomes have become better. And second is that there is no downside to using the drug except for the cost, because we've used it in many patients and there are no side effects whatsoever. It's a completely safe drug. So that also, makes doctors offer the drug to their patients, because they feel that, when there's nothing else, let us at least offer something which is known to, work. So
Right.
that is the reason why remdesivir has still stayed in the protocols.
Right. And, before I go, so, I mean, the city of Mumbai, for instance, has clearly seen a fairly sharp reduction in cases compared to obviously the peak. Do you feel that there is much greater herd immunity now and seroprevalence?
Yes, it is because studies also show the same. For example, in the slums, it must be around 50%. In housing societies, there was a study done some time ago, which was about 15 to 20%. Even in healthcare workers, the antibody tests have shown the
Right.
prevalence. So I think, yes, I think the decline in cases is possibly because of herd immunity, because the city has opened out much more than before. And in fact, the compliance to prevention has actually gone down. Mask fatigue has set in. People don't no longer want to stay in their houses. They want to go. But the final message which I would like to give people is that it's not over yet. It's
Right.
not over yet, and this virus is very unpredictable. So again, we should continue to follow those things like social distancing, mask, and hand hygiene. Otherwise, we don't know whether we will also face the same situation as Europe is undergoing right now.
Or America. Dr. Tanu Singhal, thank you so much for joining me. And as always, I wish you all the very best in this continued battle against this dreaded disease. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.